Welcome back to Lunch Break with the Village. This afternoon, I am having a conversation with Jordan McNally, one of our licensed foster care dads with the Village. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Yeah, such a pleasure to have you with us. So let's dive into some, questions to help others be motivated to want to foster. So, what motivated you to become a foster parent, and what has the experience been like for you?
Yeah, great question. Being in the LGBT community, there's a lot of things that LGBT people can't necessarily go through in terms of having their own children, costs, that sort of thing. So that's always been something that's been on my mind of what my future looked like in terms of having kids. And fostering just was the first thing that instantly came to mind, or, some sort of adoption. And me and my husband, John, we had just recently got married last year in May, so we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. Right after we had gotten married, we happened to see the wonderful billboard on the side of the building here as we were going down 84 of, foster parents needed. And instantly, he called me. He's like, Jordan, we should become foster parents. And it was something that had been on his mind as well. And I didn't even hesitate. I was like, absolutely. I had instantly reached out to the Village right away and was like, hey, we're interested. And it just took off from there.
So what would you say are some of the most rewarding parts of being a foster parent?
Honestly, especially now being in it, is just the fact of knowing there's just so many kids out there that are just in need of a loving home and someone to care about them and somewhere to feel safe. These kids have been through so many trials and tribulations and different sort of traumas that, some of us haven't even gone through in our lives, that, here they are, 8, 9, 10 years old, and they've gone to war, if you will, in their own homes with their own family members, that, now being able to give them that sense of, just being a kid and getting to live their lives without really having to worry about, am I going to be in this home another day, or am I going to come home and mom or dad are having, a fight over something, or, if I do something wrong, am I going to get hit and abused or whatever it may be. So being able to take that away and just being able to give a child, that home is just, there, you can't put a price tag on it of what that feels like.
There's going to be folks listening that might be considering, hey, I want to be a foster parent. It sounds like you're doing great work and that you are creating a safe space for kids. But how do you do that when this isn't something maybe that you've done before? So why don't you talk to us a little bit about how the Village and our foster care program has supported you and your husband on your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely with being first-time foster parents, we don't have kids of our own. This has been, a good experience for us, especially with partnering with the Village, because of how the FFT model works that we are in. There's a clinician that comes out every week and meets with our foster child and with us as well. And there's a lot of components of just working together as a family. There's a lot of questions that come up of trying to relate back to the child, of things that they might be experiencing, of, what was your childhood like? When we talk about, what my childhood was like, my husband's childhood was like, so that way they can kind of compare the similarities. And then we have our FFS, our family support specialist, that also comes in, talks with our foster child, talks with us, see if there's anything that we need. There's just so many people that we've come in contact with since we started with the Village that I've had to create like a Village folder in my phone just to try and keep track of who's who and who's what, because there's just so many people. And, the Village, it fits the name for it, because you really have a village of people that come and help you out, day, night, whatever time of day it is. There's someone there that will answer the question for you, or even if you're feeling overwhelmed, run the scenario through and help guide you through that, so that way you don't really feel like you're alone in the challenge.
No, that's really good. I think sometimes people underestimate when you foster how much support comes with fostering versus when you're a parent or you become a guardian or kinship care, sometimes you're on your own or you have the limited resources you have within whatever your network is. So there's a beauty in having that village that rises you up, lift you and the child up, and be able to support you through that journey. I think it's important for individuals who are considering fostering to realize that there is a network of people that comes with this. You're never going to be alone.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of stigma that has been out there about what foster care was in the past that tends to maybe put people off from that it's really not the case, especially here, with the village. It's a whole different ballgame than what's been portrayed as to what foster care is about.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So what advice would you give to someone who is considering fostering or even doing respite care that says, hey, I want to help, maybe not willing to take someone in 24/7, maybe I just want to help on the weekends. What advice would you give them as far as picking up that phone, making that call to the village?
Advice I can say is go for it. If it's something that has been on your mind, on your heart, whatever it may be, even, if you start off just doing that weekends, get, your footing for it and see how it is. If you're really afraid to commit to having someone, for, a permanent time frame, a few months, whatever it may be, start off small and then work big from there. We jumped headfirst right into it. We have a great match with the child that we have, and if there's any doubts, ask the questions. If there's things that you're unsure of that, that might have you on the hesitation of, is this for me, is this not for me? Call, ask them, say, hey, I'm interested in this, but, I might have some reservations about, maybe it's a work schedule that might not correlate, or maybe I'm not sure about the rooms in my home, if this would be sustainable for a kid or what have you. They'll get the questions answered for you to make sure that you've got a well-informed decision.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jordan, for coming, spending the time with us to have this conversation. Hopefully, those who are listening in will be inspired by you and your husband's story and make the decision to help and foster a child in need. We really appreciate your service.
Absolutely.
And the support you're offering at this time.
Absolutely. Thank you.